Hey guys, welcome back to Vision 42. I'm Kara Vibes, and today it's an amazing day just to be alive. But we have a very special guest today. We have Mr. Mark Stansel, and he is the founder and CEO of Terminus Media. Mark feels that the biblical admonition, sorry, I had to slow myself down, admonition to love God with all of your heart, soul, and strength, and love of your neighbor as yourself. It is the best way to lead and to live. Mark started his career as a creative executive while working as a computer and system integration professional. So he is the rare combination of technical expertise and creative excellence. Mark's frequent advice to start today with what you have. That's great advice. I read that earlier and I'm like, that's the best advice. That just made me so pumped. And it's exactly what he's always done. Starting small by writing an 8-page black and white comic called Shift, then full color animated comic Platypus versus Monkey. Mark excels at leading high performance teams to accomplish great things while having a good time doing it. So let's go ahead and bring Mark on and ask him some questions and see what all he's got going on.
Hey, Kara. Hey, how are you doing? Thanks for having me on Vision 42 today.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to have you on and hear all the amazing things that you have going on and putting your own modern twist on comics. So why don't you start off by telling us what inspired you to start Terminus Media?
Well, we started Terminus Media about 20 years ago in Atlanta. There was no film business in Atlanta at the time. And there was a couple of us guys who were writing screenplays, right? And if you didn't live in New York or Los Angeles, you're basically out of luck because in Atlanta, there was no film business. So we started by sort of asking the question, how can we get more attention and more folks in the business? How can we get these screenplays looked at, bought, actually made into a film, get that film funded, etc. And so we looked around and we said, what do we have? What resources do we have? What money do we have? What people do we have? What resources do we have? And let's take whatever resources we have available and let's get started like right now. And let's start doing things. So we started making these little black and white comic books. It was a little anthology comic books, but what we did is we turned those screenplays into comics because a lot of times you may not be able to get someone in the industry to pay attention to you, if your screenplay, which is about, an inch and a half thick of words, dude can't really read your screenplay in less than a minute. But, you can pick up a comic book and sort of give it that flip test. You can look through there and see if there's some image, if there's some concept that jumps out and grabs your attention. And we found with comic books, we not only were able to get people's attention because comic books are basically storyboards for a film, right? You can see kind of what this film or this animated feature would look like. But the other thing a comic book did that's a positive is it allowed us to gather an audience of other people who are like, man, this story is great. You can see, like, I think over here, you can see one of our books there called Evolution, and black and white on the inside. The only thing that's colored was the cover, and it was because we didn't have the money to color it, and we didn't have the money to print a colored book. We had, very little money, so we took what money we had. We created comics, and literally our first book took like a year and a half to get 5 8-page stories done and laid out in a book, sent off to a printer, and we got them back for this huge nerd convention in Atlanta called Dragon Con. It's like 40,000 people. It's like a big costume party that roams around 5 hotels in downtown Atlanta. Uh, and we went there with our little, wheelbarrow full of comics, and we're like, we're gonna see if anybody will buy our comics. And we sold like 400 comics over that 5-day weekend. So we were thrilled, and we were excited about the future. And so we made 3 books in the Evolution series. The third actually was color, and it got some attention, and folks asked us to take one of the stories from the book and to do a series. And so it just kind of built from there. We were making these comic books, and then we started doing animated trailers that we could post online to promote those comic books that were promoting those screenplays. And it's funny how when you're doing something, people say, hey, can you do that for me? So we started doing creative services, right? One year, someone from the CDC came up to us at DragonCon and said, hey, what you're doing here with this little platypus versus monkey comic, we think this would be a great tool for public health. And actually, we ended up doing over an hour of animation for the CDC geared towards HIV and AIDS prevention.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we did a lot of things like Nitto Tires is this Japanese sort of high-end tire company. They asked us to do a comic book telling the story of their company. And it's on their website. And, the comic book is kind of an easy form of sequential art. It's storytelling. And you don't have to sit a kid down and say, now you take this novel and read it. The kid's like, I don't want to read a novel, but you sit a kid down and say, we're going to have story time. We're going to look at the book with pictures in it, and we're going to read it together. It's a totally different thing. So, that's kind of the origin. That's how we got started.
I have to follow Jennifer in the comments. She said, that's amazing. That is amazing. That is awesome. How inspiring. And to sell 400 copies at your first convention in 5 days. That's awesome.
We were flabbergasted. And I don't think it was necessarily that our comic was the greatest. I think it was because we were so enthusiastic about it. Oh my gosh, it took us a year and a half to do this. Look at our book. We're so excited. Which is sort of the second thing is, the team of people that you go on this journey with is really going to determine to a large extent whether you're successful or not. If you have a team where, there's a boat with 6 people in it and only one person is interested in pulling the oar, you're not really going to go very far, kind of going to go in circles, right? Because there's only one person working. And we've all been in school where we had that science project that they teamed us up with 4 or 5 other people, but only like one kid in the group actually did all the work for the rest of them. That may work, in the short term in that science class. But, when you're talking about creating a business that adds value to other people, that makes a difference in people's lives over and above their expectations, that delights the customers where they're like, whoa, not only did I get what I expected, but I got more. You can't do that without a great team, It takes a team that has a lot of love in their heart and wants to go out and take care of people. And if they're not a people person, it's that creator who's like a chef, a 5-star chef in the kitchen. He's like, I'm going to make this food that we're going to serve. And for us, our food is our comics and our animation and film. This is going to be so great. It's going to be undeniable. Is the work that you're doing so great that nobody can say it isn't?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellence is really critical. We're making comic books based on our last 2 books that are based on stories in the Bible. And if there's ever been a book that people that teach it have bored their students with, the Bible probably falls into that category. And I remember I had a teacher in college, Dr. Howard Hendricks, and he was talking about what a crime that is to bore people with the Bible. And I remember him kind of, his neck got a little red and he's waving his arms and he goes, if you want to bore people, bore them with Shakespeare. Bore them with nuclear physics, but don't bore people with the Bible, you know. And so, yeah, our two stories, Dominion and Samson, we really did everything we could to make it as entertaining and as engaging as possible.
Yeah, I was looking at Samson and I watched a trailer for Dominion,
Hmm.
and it was really good. I wish I would have had more time to prepare because I would have loved to show it on the show that trailer for you because, and I'm gonna put the link up for it in the chat as well, or on the live on Facebook for everyone to go check it out because it's really good. It is. You guys, what your guys' work, what you do is amazing. I I eventually want to work at a media company, so that would be awesome. I just graduated Ohio Media School, so when you were talking
Oh,
about the
congratulations.
class projects, thank you. The class projects where like one or two people did all the work. Yeah, that happens quite often.
And it happens in businesses too. It's like I remember that first comic book where we were talking about sending it off to the printer and everything, and we're like passing around the hat and taking up the collection, and it's funny how everybody's like, yeah, I'm down for the struggle. I'm a team player. I'm a team player, and then you pass around the hat, and people are like, they kind of looking around. And I get it. Some of us are struggling financially. I know I've been there too, where it's like, oh, they turned off the power today. We've all been in a situation where we're struggling financially. So I'm not talking about that, but some folks, it's like they they just don't want to work. Sometimes they want to contribute, and part of being successful is partnering with the right people. And it's true in marriage. If you partner with the wrong person in marriage, that marriage train ain't going to go very far. But
Right.
definitely in business, you want to, we like to say we like to work with people who are working, right? If someone is sort of, they're busy, they're productive, they're going to add value to the team. That's definitely the team member that you want. The person that challenge you is be like, man, I got to step up my game. This person is really calling down the thunder.
Yeah.
That kind of person, and that was one of the great things about, for folks who are kind of just getting started, folks who are just moving into, hey, I don't want to work at, this crappy job for this crappy boss for the rest of my life and not have any money. And are kind of getting after it. It helps to have people around you who are getting after it and who are passionate and who are like, hey man, what did you do to make your dream happen today? Well, I didn't do anything. Well, why? It was almost like a therapy session where we're kind of looking at one another in the eye and being like, dude, you said you're going to write 10 pages this week and you wrote 0. What's up with that? And it's funny, that first group, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie from the 90s called Fight Club. You ever see this movie? It's got Brad Pitt in it, and it's about these guys. They're kind of not happy in their lives, but then they start going down in this basement and kind of fighting with one another, and they feel more alive, right? We called our first group Right Club because it was the same thing, just on a creative level. The first rule of Fight Club is if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight, right? And so when new people would come in, we'd be like, "What you got?" Oh man, and this is what you heard so often, Carrie. You hear the guy say, "I've got this like big universe that it's I see I can envision like a 12 feature film thing, and I have 27 characters in my head, and how much of it have you written? Well, I haven't really written anything. Well, how many of those 27 characters have you had like illustrated, or did you illustrate yourself? Well, I have this, they pull out like notebook paper. It's like, this is kind of what I was thinking. And we would just be like, hey, if you're serious about this, you need to get to work. And so it was good to be on both sides of that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. Because I had a hard time struggling to motivate myself, to push myself to get it.
Yeah, motivation
Do it.
is motivation is hard sometimes because let's be honest, life is tough, and sometimes we come from a rough home situation, or we got a rough situation in our personal life for whatever reason, or our job is like a vampire sucking our soul out of our body. And so having my professional background doing data integration, uh, taking data out of this system and putting it in a different system and translating and stuff, it's a great thing. It's lucrative, that sort of stuff. But there was this part of me that was like, this is not what I was meant to do, like, for the rest of my life. And all these creative things, these stories that I love so much, and that all these stories that I want to tell. I don't want to go to the grave with these stories inside me, and they never got out. Nobody will ever know them. And at some point, you have to say, hey, for me, it was when we were talking in the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic ever hit, we were talking about what we wanted to do with Terminus, where we want to go in the future. And we were just really clear about, we want to tell some of these stories because we're people of faith, and we think these stories, these old stories in the Old Testament and the Bible, have value, and they've changed our lives for the better, and we want to share them with other people in a really entertaining and compelling way. And Dr. Baron Bell, who's a college professor, he pitched Dominion to me. He's like, now, Mark, I know this is kind of weird. I know this is kind of weird, but like, I want to tell the story from 1 Samuel of King Saul, the first king of Israel. But I want to make all the characters anthropomorphic animals. So Saul is going to be a big lion, and the prophet Samuel is going to be a crow, and it's going to be set, instead of these little villages in the ancient, Holy Land, it's going to be this, dominion of planets, and there's going to be spaceships and mechs and lasers and I was like, yeah, hold on. Like I'm a kid who grew up watching Thundercats, when I got home from school in the 80s, and watching Voltron, Defender of the Universe. So when he said lions in space, I was like, hey, you don't need to tell me anymore. We're totally doing this. So he's like, well, let me go and let me do some conceptual art. And he came back with this universe of all these characters that I recognized from the Bible, but they were sort of in a different context. And we were talking before the show started about Dominion Chapter 3, and that's coming out soon. And it's like, I can't believe this. Can't believe we're like pulling it off, right? Actually telling these stories in such an entertaining and fun and engaging way. And you don't have to be a person of faith to enjoy these stories. The stories are great stories in and of themselves. The characters are real. King Saul has a serious anger problem. And where does his anger come from? It comes from rejection. If you've ever been rejected somebody, and you had that sort of deep depression that just turned into anger over time, that was Saul, and he was angry and he was upset. And his problem was, it was too late. It was too late to do the right thing. It was too late to get straightened up and change. He'd already been sort of told, you're done, right? And if you've ever been in a relationship where someone told you, hey, we're done, this is over, no more, you know what that feels like. So telling Saul's story, and it's called Dominion, Fall of the House of Saul. Spoiler, Saul's kingship does not end well. But it's a story that we can all learn from. And it's of course I'm biased because we're creating it over here at Terminus Media, but it's so gratifying when a 12-year-old kid goes, like when after you eat a good meal, you're like, oh, this lobster bisque, this cheeseburger is amazing. 12-year-old kids, talk to us. They're like, oh man, when the Met came up and they were fighting the Philistine, the big alligator thing, and blah 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 blah. They're talking about it, and you realize, hey, this kid is talking about this ancient story from, First Samuel in the Bible, and this is great. This is fun, right?
And they may not even realize that it's from the Bible at this moment, but later on down the line, they'll realize it and they'll be like, wow, that was even better than I thought.
Right. And when I was a kid, if I really liked something, I would watch it like 10 times. I would almost study it, to figure out what is it about this that I like so much, so I can go find more of it. So hopefully, hopefully we'll have an army of kids who feel that way. And it's funny, like in Michigan, there's a youth group who took our Dominion books and are doing like their weekly Bible study based on the chapters in Dominion, and they're taking pictures of themselves, like looking at these comics and reading these comics, and it's just very gratifying that these teenagers are enjoying it, because that's really what we wanted. We wanted anybody, whether you're a 7-year-old kid or 20, 30 something, to be able to read this and enjoy it, and to be like, man, I wonder what's going to happen next. So yeah, it's always good to hear positive reviews.
Yeah, and the illustrations in these comics are amazing. And I've seen on your website that they have like tutorial videos on drawing them.
Absolutely. And what kid doesn't want to learn to draw? They kind of, folks, our teachers, I don't know if it's our teachers or if it's our peers, but somehow or another, if you ask a 6-year-old kid, can you draw? They almost all of them say, yeah, I can draw. I'm good at drawing. But at some point, maybe in middle school, somebody's telling these kids you can't draw. And, in some cases, it's probably true. They can't draw at a professional level. But we found that little video that you can check out on our website at terminusmedia.com. It's just a tutorial just talking about how to draw a seraphim marine, which is kind of like the special forces of the Dominion Empire. And they have these big robotic suits that are specialized for whatever their specialty is. Some are like heavy weapons. Tech, who's a wolf, Tech's expertise is in computer hacking and intelligence. So he has a little drone that he deploys from his suit that flies around and goes and grabs data from the destroyed base that's been destroyed by, I don't know what it was, but it has a huge footprint. And there's all these graviton radiation readings that we're reading in the air. Something really bad happened here. And then, there's the cheetah character that is really fast. And so it's just, it's so fun to see all these come out. And Dr. Baron Bell, the creator of Dominion, he actually draws every panel, every page himself. And it's funny how when people look at these anthropomorphic animal characters, regardless of what race they're from, what culture they're from, they see themselves, right? Mm-hmm. They look at that lion character, that hero, and they're like, that's me and my people. So it kind of cuts through all races and all cultures. We've translated the book into Portuguese and Spanish and some other languages, which is a totally different thing when someone in Brazil is like, oh man, this book is great. When are we going to get more of this? And it's in their own language, the language that, their heart language is what we call it. So hopefully we can do more translations of the books. I'd like to get it into German. So if you're out there, you do German translation, hit us up, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, by reaching out and putting it in more languages, you're going to be able to reach more people and relate. More people are going to be able to relate, and you'll be able to get that story heard. Because the way you're putting them in these comics to help people is able to give someone a perspective on it that they couldn't have understood in that other way, but this way they can. So I think that's amazing. I think it's really important that everyone gets their voice heard and gets what their knowledge out there so other people can learn from it, and people learn different ways. So it's really good to have it out there in all these different formats so that it can reach all these people. I think it's amazing. I'm very passionate about helping people. That's part of my show, to get people like you on to come tell your story and what you do so that I can reach more people. And by doing that, I'm helping other people. So
you are helping other people. And, you know, when you share, why do we have stories anyway? You know, we have stories because from ancient times, somebody would sit there and say, you know, when I was hunting the gazelle today, instead of trying to hit him over the head with a rock, you know, I used this long thing with a point and stabbed him, and it worked better. You know, we can do that with so much more efficacy now because we have this internet thing that we can share all this experience that we have about how to live a great life, how to do our thing that we were put on this earth to do. Like God created each of us with a talent and a personality, a unique thing that we are uniquely qualified and gifted to do. So the sooner in our lives we can figure out what that is and get about doing that, you know, the sooner we can have joy. Every day we wake up like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to wrestle this day and to get on with it. And that's a good place to be. And a lot of us, you know, we have to work a job at some point in our life because, hey, we got bills to pay, right? But hopefully we're all moving towards that situation where we're doing that thing that we're gifted at, that we can do better than anybody else on the planet.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, it's important to have, especially when you're just starting off like I am, to have a job so that the bills can get paid, because I'm just starting off. I'm not really making any money. I'm pretty much just working and building up my creative brand. So, you know, I'm not making much money off of it right now. It's a little bit here and there that I'll make, but I have to have that stability, and that stability helps fund what I'm doing, which eventually will pay off. All my hard work is definitely going to pay off. I can feel it. I know it's coming. So
yeah, and I agree with you 100%. It is definitely going to pay off. And in the meantime, yeah, because I talk to young guys or girls, and they're like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to take over the world and I'm going to grab this, you know, I'm going to do all this stuff. And I was like, you know, it's really hard to, to do your thing if you're homeless, and if the lights aren't on, and if you don't have any gas to get from point A to point B in the car. So sometimes we have to be patient, and we have to, you know, for me, it was, you know, building up, you know, I was here with the career, and then as Terminus did like this, then it was just an easy step to take off. And my rich uncle said, he's like, don't take off from one airport until you know what that other airport is that you're going to land at. And that's good advice.
that is good advice. Very good advice.
Having a plan and a strategy. How am I going to do this? You know, at what point is this, you know, do I expect this to pay off? Because, you know, if you're doing it for 20 years and you're still not making any money, hey, you need a better plan. You need to maybe sit back and think about this a little bit.
Reevaluate it. Yeah. I'm going to hit you with another question. What excites you the most about where your company is going?
I think what excites me the most is just, you know, being authentic to who I am as a man and as a creator. I'm doing what I love to do every day. So I look forward to being able to continue to do that every day, and to, you know, the people that you meet along the way it's extraordinary, because you're like, wow, you know, when you kind of wave a banner of excellence, and you wave a banner of creativity, and other people kind of are drawn to you. You know, they see what you're doing and they're like, man, this guy, he really cares about this stuff that he's doing. He's doing great stuff, and he's making moves, and that they you know, it's like eagles tend to fly with eagles, right? So and turkeys, you know, turkeys, they like to waddle around on the ground and eat acorns or something. But eagles, man, they like to fly high, and so one of the funnest things is just the people that have sort of flown in and been like, hey, man, I really like what you're doing, and I'm doing this, and you know, it's these, like Daniel Hancock is just an amazing creator. He's a co-writer of Dominion, and you know, he produces these wonderful audio books. He produced an audio book that is basically the entire life of Jesus, and he produces all the trailers that we have on our website. So it's like when I look at the trailers that Daniel and his team produces, I'm like, how did we even do this? You know, this is so much better than I ever thought it would be, and it's because you know, two horses don't have double the strength of one horse; they have triple the strength of one horse, right? Once you're pulling together with people who have a like mind, and again, who have that work ethic and that passion, all of a sudden it's like, if you kind of fall down one day and you're like, man, I had a rough day today or yesterday, and I'm tired and I'm discouraged and I'm upset about this or that, and then you know, you get an email from them saying, hey, look at this awesome thing that I did that's going to boost all of us and that's going to make us really successful. And it's like, oh, this is so good. I'm not doing this by myself. And the next week you're going to be the guys or the girl sending that email to everybody else saying, hey, look at this big whale that I just caught, you guys. You know, come over here and help me get it on the shore. So
Yeah.
it's fun working with good people.
It's really fun working with good people. And not only it's just being around other creative minds and just watching all that creativity flow through each and every one. Like it's bouncing off of each other, and it just goes. It just flows.
Have you ever sat in like a brainstorming creative session with really sharp people, and at the end of it you're like, where did all this great stuff come from? It's like you pulled it out of the air, and it's that is something that anybody who's a creative, anybody who's ever, you know, sat in a session like that, like we have, you know how that feels when that happens. It's like magic. It's really, really fun.
It's really, really enjoyable just to watch what you brainstorm and you put together on paper quickly, because it usually doesn't take very long, you know, when you have really good flow, and then you watch it come to life, and it all comes together, and it's like, wow, that was even better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, like this, you know, one of the other books we're working on based on the Old Testament it's called Samson Rise, and it was created by two Australian guys, right? These guys are like you know, you picture like the prototypical Aussie who's like got that, you know, 5 o'clock shadow, that permanent, like these are like tough dudes, right? And they're like, Mark, you want to do Samson, and we want it to be more like, I have a terrible Australian accent, but they're talking about how they want it to be gritty. They want it to be real, and you know, they showed us some of the illustrations, and we're just blown away by it, and just the story structure. You know, it kind of starts at, you know, the book Samson Rise. It starts at the end of the story with Samson sitting in jail, blind, and asking himself, how did I get here? What happened in my life? You know, where did I go wrong? And anybody who's lived any life at all has sort of sat down and asked themselves that question. You know, like that old Talking Head song, well, how did I get here?
Right.
And So the rest of the story sort of lays out Samson's life and doesn't pull any punches. All of our books are faith and family friendly, but that book is more appropriate for the teen and the teen plus audience, because one of the problems Samson had was, he just couldn't resist temptation, and what was his weakness? Women, right? He was he was a super strong guy. He killed 600 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. I mean, this guy is like, he's a supernatural just machine of destruction. But you see his life, and it's like he's like, oh, my mama doesn't like her. My friends go, oh, dude, no, man, no, and he just couldn't say no. And I'm sure you've had girlfriends where you're like, hey, this is not the guy for you. Don't do it. And I know I've had friends where I was like, hey, dude, no. But you see them kind of, they just kind of drift off, and you're like, I hope it. Have you ever gone to a wedding and you're just like, I'm here, but I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Wonder how long this one's gonna last. Yeah, that was definitely Samson's life. But there's so much to learn there about. Sometimes when we're really strong is when we really have to be on our guard, because we may be strong in one category, but we're weak in a different category. So we got to kind of watch out. So like some people they're really good at being analytical. They're very good at looking at numbers, but when it comes to taking action, to doing something, they have a hard time with it, because I need to continue analyzing until I have 100% certainty that blah, 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 and the opportunity's gone, right? If you talk to anybody who's successful, they say, I got lucky, right? I got lucky. I'm a lucky person. I was watching an interview with Tom Ford, who's a fashion icon dude. And he's the interviewer asked him, what one word would you use to describe your life? And he said, lucky. And a lot of successful people would say that. But I don't know if you've ever heard another saying that luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So while we're working that day job or whatever, are we doing the things? Are we preparing for, when we're I'm in the elevator with, Steven Spielberg or something. And he's like, I just don't have any ideas. What do you got? Are you prepared to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes? If you're a real estate investor, do you have the financing lined up for this investment property that you're going to buy before the property comes up? Because when a great deal comes up, it's gone really fast. So if you're like, oh, there's such a great deal, let me get my financing, and it's gone, right? There's so much of, I think, success that is about being prepared and about sort of loading up your ammunition, getting all your gear. Like the Navy SEALs, they talk about, it's a famous saying in the Navy SEALs that 1 is none and 2 is 1. And what they're talking about is if you have one gun and it fails, you're screwed. You have 0 guns. So they always have a primary and a backup. So that's the whole thing of 1 is none and 2 is 1. But in our lives and our careers, I think I'm on plan G for Terminus. We thought it was going to be this, and then it was this, and then it was, well, let's shift gears and let's do this. And that's the nature of the beast, right? Even companies like the Walt Disney Company, when coronavirus hit, they were like, uh-oh, right? Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, I'm going to ride off into the sunset of success, and COVID hit. He's like, well, I think I better stick around a little bit longer, fellas, and help y'all get through this. And that's life, I was watching the movie Tombstone over the weekend, and, there's a great scene at the end where Doc Holliday asks Wyatt Earp, he's like, what do you want, Wyatt? And he says, I just want to live a normal life. And Doc Holliday goes, there ain't no normal life. Why? There's just life. And that is true.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're like me, but when things are going really well, I start to look around. Prepare for something not to go right. Uh, and that's just because life's like that. It's not always easy.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but we make it through. We find a way and we make it through.
Absolutely. And start with what you got right now. If you're just starting out, you know, there's a great place to go when you don't have any money. You go to work
Mm-hmm.
and you outwork everybody else, and eventually you'll have enough experience where the hours that you work, your productivity is going to be so much greater than all the people around you. But you're always going to be ahead of the pack. You're always going to be the eagle flying around the other turkeys, sort of, walking around on the ground, eating acorns and fighting over, is my boss going to give me a 3% raise this year? If that is the summation of your ambition, hoping that your boss will be kind enough to give you that 3%, to offset inflation raise, I would just invite you to sort of hit reset and to dream about, what am I here for? And sometimes I know in my life, how they break up log jams. They used to have to float logs down a river to get them to the sawmill, right? And sometimes there would be a log jam, and the way they cleared a log jam, they put dynamite in there. And sometimes you gotta dynamite that stuff in your life that's keeping you from doing the things that you're put here to do. So I know
I agree with that.
we've had to dynamite, some things in Terminus a couple of times. Like, this ain't working. We keep doing the same thing, and it doesn't work, and we wonder why it doesn't work. Like, we would, when we first started out, we would invest our time and our money into creating something with a creator, and we'd have no written agreement with it, right? We're all so excited about this. This is so great. We're all going to do this. We're going to be pals. It's going to be great. But we get a year down the road, and the dude's like, I don't like you guys anymore. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go do it by myself. After we, other people in the company had invested a lot in it. And if you don't have a legal agreement, you don't really have any recourse except to say, good luck with that, dude. So, the basic business things like legal agreements, things like having a good accounting system, so you know what the score is in your business. Do you know in your business, are you losing money? Are you making money? A lot of small business people are like, I know I'm losing money because I looked at my balance today and there's $5 in there, right? But these disciplines, because I'm a creative guy and I'm a technical guy too, but at some point, hopefully your business will be successful enough where you can pay somebody to do all the legal stuff and all the accounting stuff, but it's got to get done. And if you don't know what the score is in your business and you're just kind of hoping things go okay with that thing over there, and you don't have an agreement with your team and they don't know what to expect, if we do hit the mother load or whatever, it's going to cause problems. So you learn these things along the way. And I'm kind of a recovering nice guy, so I would be like, oh, everything's going to be fine and it's going to be great. I would tell people what they wanted to hear instead of the truth. So I tend to fall on the other side of the coin now. I'm going to be brutally honest with somebody because I care about them and I want them to know what the real deal is. And some people don't like to hear the truth, and that's okay. They're going to hear it anyway from me. And if they don't want to know, don't ask, because I'm going to shoot straight with folks. And I think that kind of honesty, that kind of authenticity in the way that we live and work and interact with one another, that's a critical part of success. I remember when the dot-com boom happened. Remember that crash, the boom and then the crash?
Mm-hmm.
We have all these, dot-com business people that got millions and millions of dollars in funding from investors. They have no revenue coming in. They have no idea how to get revenue coming in. But they're telling their team, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Sometimes you have to tell people, hey, if we don't turn this around in 6 months, we are all going to be unemployed. So, we have to turn this around, and it's going to depend on you, and it's going to depend on me. And having a great strategy and executing that strategy, actually doing what is required. Because some people, when they think the right things, they think the problem is solved. Oh, I understand the problem now. I understand the problem. Walking down a dark alley at night is dangerous, but then they wander down the dark alley anyway. You have to see the danger and take action. I am not going to go down the dark alley. I'm gonna take an Uber home at 3 o'clock in the morning in Chicago, right near the housing project or whatever. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
That was actually really good advice for anyone that plans on starting a business, because I know a lot of people since COVID have started their own businesses, and they when you start your own business, you're not going to know everything right off, but I do think it's important to go in with a good solid plan, and a lot of I think a lot of people are just jumping into it without a good solid plan, but that's not going to say that they're not going to be successful, because they can still become successful. They just got to want it and work hard. And like you said, your team is everything, and there's no I in team. And your team having a good solid foundation and a good team behind you, a good support system, is what is going to make you or break you.
Yeah, it's really critical, and surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you and more talented than you. Hey, that's a good plan. I highly recommend it. That's my plan here. Dr. Bell is like a brilliant artist. Daniel Hancock, can outwork 5 other people. The guy's, he's got 4 kids, a wife, and he's just like a powerhouse of creativity. And all the people at Terminus, just it's so different than in the past, working with people where it's like, I remember on my first the first story that I wrote, that I self-published myself, it was called Shift, right? And it was about us getting to a point in technology where we could shift our mind and our consciousness from our physical bodies into artificial bodies that live forever, right? It's like, this is a great concept. And I remember talking to this artist, and I was like, hey man, I'm working on this, and do you want to work on it? And he's like, well, yeah, okay. And a month later, I was like, hey man, did you haven't had a chance to do any of those drawings yet? And he's like, no man, I'm busy. I got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, well, do you think you could do something next 2 weeks? Yeah, in the next 2 weeks, I should be able to do something. 2 weeks later, nothing. 2 months later, nothing. And I remember at some point I was like, hey man, you think you're going to do anything ever? And he's like, I need you to show me the money. And I'm going to need I think he's like 10 grand or some ridiculous amount of money for the work that I was asking him to do. And now we pay like professional artists, a lot more than that to do stuff. But sometimes we're working with, if you're working with someone who's not working and who's not engaged, you end up wasting a lot of time. And the most precious thing you have is time. The one thing you don't want to waste is time. Because when you're young, you think, man, I have my whole life ahead of me. I got at least 40, 50 good years to work. It's not like that, though. You have to really redeem the time that you have. And one of the best ways to waste a whole lot of time is to have people on the team that are not working and who are not interested, who aren't passionate about, what we're working on, waste a lot of time. And the other team members are discouraged because they're like, man, I showed up and did my stuff, and this guy showed up for the 3rd time and hasn't done anything. And so, yeah, don't let anybody else waste your time. That
Yeah.
is the worst thing that someone can do is waste your time. So I've become very intolerant of it. And
Yeah.
if I get the feeling that we're wasting time with this project or with this relationship, we say good luck to you going and not doing anything productive somewhere else. Uh, but again, it's life and experience, and going from being a nice guy who's really a weak guy, kind of inauthentic guy, or a lady to just being authentic and being and understanding that life is short, and life's too short to work with people that you know that don't that don't treat you right, to work with people that are uh, you know
Excited, passionate.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just as excited as you are to work on these projects.
Yeah.
Um, and just as passionate about it and show effort. It's
Hmm.
That's the best because that helps motivate you and keep you going.
It is, and the first sort of full comic book that I did is called Platypus Monkey. I think you can see it. Yeah, that right there, Platypus Monkey. Platypus Monkey. It's one of those things that was just the opposite, where I wrote a script and I kind of had some loose ideas about what I wanted the characters to look like and stuff. But I gave them to this artist named Brian Hardison, who's just a freaking brilliant artist. And he came back with all these designs, and it's like that whole jaw-dropping moment where this is so much better than I could have even conceived myself. And Platypus Monkey, it's also available on our website, 2minutesmedia.com, but it's about this test subject monkey from the Soviet space program in the 1960s, gets shot into space and hit by an asteroid, so he drifts off into deep space for 60 years, where the aliens find him, repair him with data from his own ship, right? They repair his brain with data from the Soviet probe and send him back to Earth, but instead of landing in the motherland of Soviet Union, he lands in New York City in this sort of War of the Worlds alien walker thing, and thinks that, okay, I'm here for the motherland, Soviet Union, to take over. And so he starts taking over New York City for the Soviet Union, which he finds out later it doesn't exist anymore. But we have this little platypus character who talks like Humphrey Bogart and carries a 45 and brass knuckles. He and the monkey have words, right? They have words, and it gets physical, and folks can we've actually animated that entire first chapter of Platypus versus Monkey, and maybe you can put that in the show notes or something. I think I sent you that link, but it's one of those things where the creative team really elevated the project to be something that I never even conceived could be so great and so fun, and that's when that's why I do this. It's like I don't know of another way to get sort of that much fun out of doing something that's productive, that changes people's lives. One thing about the monkey character is he's spouting off Soviet propaganda all the time. Like he quotes Joseph Stalin saying, ideas are far more powerful than guns. We don't allow our enemies to have guns. Why would we allow them to have ideas, right? And so the platypus is not down with that. And so, that's part of why they get into a physical altercation there. But we're communicating a perspective about that. Ideas are far more powerful than guns, and we should let people have ideas, because the better ideas we have, the better culture we can have, the better country we can have, the better life that we can have. So it's just fun. It's fun to tell those stories, and you don't have to be super sophisticated and take a philosophy class at Harvard to understand these things. You can read this goofy little comic book, or even faster, go watch the animation, and you can learn a whole bunch of stuff that's pretty obvious, but common sense ain't too common anymore, apparently. So
Yeah, it's not. I'm gonna
so,
watch that.
yeah,
Watch that animation too. I'm gonna take a look at that. I'm really
yeah,
intrigued by animations. I
yeah.
played around in
Please.
Adobe animation a little bit.
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
Practice makes perfect. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So I definitely am gonna check that out this evening. Um, before we get off of here, um, there's one more question that I really wanted to ask you. What are your three biggest accomplishments?
What are my three biggest accomplishments? Hmm. Hmm. I would say my biggest accomplishments are when I was a younger man. I was kind of a youth pastor in a church for like 2 years, and I worked with middle school guys. Right? You know how middle school is kind of chaotic and emotional, and you kind of don't know who I am, and you're hoping you'll have friends sit with you in the lunchroom and stuff. I spent those 2 years really pouring my life into those middle school guys, and I still hear back from those guys. Hey Mark, thanks for thanks for caring about us when we were crazy, annoying middle schoolers, and for pouring your life into us. That's way up there. Investing your life in other people that makes a difference in their life and makes a difference in your life too. We sit there with these middle school guys and pray together, and they would talk about, oh, a girl dumped me, or man, I didn't make it on the baseball team, and I'm really upset. And just you had somebody there other than your mom who tells you you're great and you're going to be fine, but hearing it from somebody else is a beautiful thing. So I'd say that. Um, I think in terms of accomplishment, uh, my parents are getting on in years and stuff, and 2020 with everything being shut down, I decided I'm going to write a book about my dad's life. His dad was kind of the town drunk, and it was a really rough situation. And but my dad is like, his goal when he was a kid is I just want to live in a brick house someday, because he would every 6 months go to a different house because there's no money, and kind of always one step ahead of the law. So in 2020, I had the opportunity because of COVID and everything to go help my dad plant a garden. And we would just be out there working on my dad's garden, and we just started talking, and I was like, I'm going to write a book about my dad's life, and because I want to honor my dad while he's still alive. So over the last year, I've written a book about my dad's life, and it's not even a comic book, um, but I'm proud of that. I think um, I think I think it's good to love and to honor your family. So, and then I guess third accomplishment. Um, Man, that's a really tough question. Um, I hope that, I guess the way that I live my life. I think we all, when you get to heaven, you want God to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And so, in the last year, we sort of steered Terminus Media to be more of a faith and family friendly company. Saw a lot of things where it's like, you know, it's like kids should be able to watch TV and not to have everything filtered through mom and dad. Is it offensive, and is it is it bad? So we wanted to be that company that is faith and family friendly. So I think turning the company to focus more on that. Like I watched the Andy Griffith Show when I was a kid, and there was always lessons that were being communicated through the stories on that show. Um, like Opie, one time he got a new slingshot, and they told him, don't kill anything with a slingshot. Be careful with a slingshot. Don't shoot the windows out of the house with a slingshot. So he kills a bird, right? And it's the mama bird. And Paul is really, you know, kind of upset with Opie. And he says, come upstairs to the bedroom, and he opens the window, and it's the baby birds in the nest tweeting, right? And he's like, Opie, you hear that? Those are those baby birds calling for their mama, and she ain't never coming back. I remember hearing that when I was a kid and going, whoa, I should not just indiscriminately kill animals. No one sat me down and gave me a lecture, right? But it's that kind of wholesome entertainment that communicates values and things, turning the big ship of Terminus towards that. I hope that God is pleased with that, and I hope that it makes more, I hope the people like that. I hope it enriches more people's lives. So it's about broadening the audience. So I'm proud of it.
Absolutely. That was amazing. That touched me very much so. I like the fact that you wrote a book about your dad. That's awesome. I wish my dad was still here so I could write a book about him, because he had some good stories. Definitely. So that's awesome that you did that.
I'd love to hear those stories. If you don't write the book, the stories are going to be lost. Get after it.
Right. I am writing a book, actually. I am. It's all about being consistently writing, and you really got to pressure yourself to write a chapter in a day, or however much, 1 page a day. You gotta stick to it. It's definitely disciplining myself.
It ain't easy. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right?
Yeah, but I do plan on having it out there by next year, so
awesome.
We'll see when it happens.
Let me know. I'll be one of the first ones to buy it, for sure.
And just telling us about all your stories. I hope everyone goes over to terminusmedia.com and checks them out, because it's amazing. I'm actually going to go upstairs after I'm done here and check it out some more, because there's a couple other things I wanted to look at.
Awesome.
And I subscribed. So
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome. Very inspiring. And I know God's going to be extremely proud of you when you come knock on his door.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Thank you. Hopefully for all of us, right?
Yes, he absolutely is. We're making the jizz.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.